The Phoenix is Jean and Jean is the Phoenix. A bold statement. I know the Phoenix is sort of a divisive thing among us crazy Jean stands. I, for one, love Jean with the Phoenix. Oh, I love it so much. It's one of my favorite things about Jean. I love the lore with the Phoenix. I love that Jean sacrificed herself on the space shuttle flight to save her teammates. And in the end, she called out to the universe, and the universe answered and came to her rescue, and she emerged more powerful than ever. You know, in the years since the original Phoenix saga, there has been a lot of debate about Jean's relationship with the Phoenix. And I'll tell you, it was one of those things that hit me at the right age when I was growing up, because all you had in the 90s were these little trading cards, the 1994 Fleer Ultras, and you just got a little bio on who Dark Phoenix was, on who Jean Grey was, on who the Phoenix was, on who Madeline Pryor was. And it was all very confusing for someone who was like 9 years old. You're like, I really don't understand how any of this is related. So I had to do the work. I had to be my own little archaeologist, going out there and uncovering all of these issues and finding out this information about Jean's relationship with the Phoenix. Special shout out to UncannyXmen.net. UncannyXmen.net does not get the love and respect it deserves, because I'm telling you, Familia, in the early aughts, when you still did not understand fully these stories, you could go to UncannyXmen.net and you would see pages of biography with comic book panels and what issues to find. So I still use UncannyXmen.net till this day, especially if I want to like fact check myself, or if I can't quite remember which issue something happened. I'm so bad with issue numbers. I'm always like, it happened somewhere in like the 300s of Uncanny. And it's like, nope, it was in the 400s. So I'm always so bad with that. But for today's episode, I thought we could do a ranking of Jean Grey as Phoenix action figures. I know the last Jean Grey video we did of her in her 90s Jim Lee costume did really well for us on YouTube. It did phenomenal on our podcast. On our YouTube, I would say like, hey, we got a couple thousand views. That's really good for me. I'll take it. But the thing that I got a lot of DMs about was, hey, are you going to do this as a Phoenix? We want to see a Phoenix list of that. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. But I just need to get into my mindset about it, because this is unearthing so many memories, so many hopes, so many dreams, so many letdowns. So before we begin, Familia, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode of Power of X-Men. Now, not included on this list are going to be some Phoenix figures that I know all of us really love. One of them being those 12-inch Marvel Legends Phoenix and Dark Phoenix figures that we got, I want to say in like the mid-aughts. Oh, they were so beautiful. And it was at a time when Legends weren't doing so well, and we got these beautiful 12-inch figures. And I was like, I wish they could just shrink them down to like 6-inch format, because these would be perfect Jean Grey figures. At the time, I was thinking that, since then I would be like, maybe we could do some tooling here, but they were so beautiful. I love them so much. Another figure that is not going to be included on this list, and I do have her, is White Phoenix from the Rocket Raccoon wave. Why? Because she was never released. And this is the prototype. This is the actual prototype that I got. I paid way too much money for her. Seriously, like about like the cost of my rent back in like 2013. But I wanted her so bad. This was the action figure that I truly wanted in Marvel Legends format. And I used to say that if I get this figure, my entire collection is going to revolve around it. And it has. In the past, some of my displays has been Jean in the center right here with all the X-Men around her. This is my favorite incarnation of our God Queen Jean Grey. I love her dead in the White Hot Room, operating on a cosmic level so far beyond humanity and mutant kind. She only intervenes in the most dire of situations, like Messiah Complex. But That is where I love my Jean. I love Jean as White Phoenix. I'm so sad this figure never got a mass release. I think someone asked me once because I was like, "Oh, I love this." Like someone asked me what was the most like special thing about your collection. I was like, "Oh, I have a Marvel Legends unreleased prototype of White Phoenix from the Rocket Raccoon wave when they were doing, the Jim Lee Jean Grey, an Age of Apocalypse Jean, and also a White Phoenix. And Age of Apocalypse and White Phoenix just never made it out." And they're like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Would you be happy if they ever released that figure given how much you paid for her?" And my answer was yes. I want everyone to have a White Phoenix in their collection. That was during a time with Hasbro when their variants just weren't shipping. I forgot what the excuse was. It was something with like the codes or, stores weren't ordering those variants. I forgot what the issue was. But Hasbro eventually went back and started releasing some of those variants that we never got, like Danny Moonstar, for example. We got the Walgreens exclusive one of her. With Phoenix, we got her in that return of X-Men Marvel Legends, right? When we got that first wave of X-Men Marvel Legends, the Juggernaut wave. When we got that, they gave us a green Phoenix with this head. So, that was their way of giving us Jean again. She has a green costume in that, and she is on this list, and we will talk about it. But that was supposed to be their make good for White Phoenix. Oh, why we didn't get a White Phoenix variant for that one. All right, so a couple rules here to discuss these Phoenix figures. I am going to differentiate between Dark Phoenix and Green Phoenix and any other versions of Phoenix. We're going to treat them as their own characters because technically these are two very different incarnations of the characters. And yes, a lot of these figures are repaints of each other, and we'll get into that in great detail. But for sake of this conversation, we are going to differentiate between a Dark Phoenix figure and a Green Good Phoenix figure and other versions. Anyways, Familia, we have 10 figures on this list, and we're going to go through them. So buckle up and let's talk about Jean as the Phoenix. All right, number 10 is the Marvel Legends X-Men 3 Jean Grey Phoenix. Oh my God, Familia. Okay, first of all, let's backpedal a little bit. Let's go back here a little bit. So Hasbro had just taken over the license from ToyBiz, right? This was like 2006, 2007. We really didn't know what to expect at this point. So the Annihilus Wave had just come out, and it was, oh my gosh, it was not well received at all with fans. We were very, very upset with it. And by the way, at Toy Fair, I believe this was at Toy Fair or San Diego of that year, we saw a prototype for this next wave, the Blob Wave, and we were happy when we saw these figures. The prototypes looked amazing. You got Zorn, you got She-Hulk, you had Quicksilver, and you were doing a build-to-figure Blob, Ultimate Wolverine, because the Ultimate Universe was still a thing back then. And we had Famke Janssen's Dark Phoenix. Now, X3 was not well received at all. We'll see how history judges it. I mean, it is technically retcon out of existence with Days of Future Past and with the timeline running through there. But we were all very disappointed with what sort of went down with the Phoenix storyline in X3. But we do love Famke. Famke is a wonderful Jean Grey. I know a majority of people love her. I'm not saying that there are some people out there who don't love Famke as Jean, but the majority of fans, especially Jean Grey fans, adore Famke in the role, and I do too. Obviously, every time I see her in the city, I stop her and I go nuts. I saw Famke at Nobu back in I want to say 2019, 2018, 2019. I was at Nobu in the financial district and I was with some publishing clients, and I just saw her walk in, and like my author was talking. I was like, excuse me. And I went up to Famke. And then the other time was maybe a summer or two ago. I think it was 2 summers at this point. I was in Chelsea with my husband and Planet X-Men, and Famke was just walking with her squad there. We screamed and we went nuts. And obviously, we got some content with her there. But okay, anyways, so that's a long winded way of saying that we were very excited when we saw the prototype of this figure. I believe that looking at the background, this looks like it's San Diego. Anyways, wherever San Diego or Toy Fair 2007, we saw these images come through. We were so excited for it. And then we got the actual figure hit stores. And it wasn't even just one figure, it was two. We got a variant with like ruddy mascara eyes. Oh gosh, this was so disrespectful to Her Majesty Famke Johnson. Her Majesty's image was desecrated here. Oh, it was so. Listen, I bought like 800 of these. Don't get me wrong. At the time, Marvel Legends were still somewhat affordable. They were like what, like 8.99, 9.99, something like that. So, and of course, this was a peg warmer. No one wanted her. And I would go to the True in Times Square and just be like, I'm getting all of these. And I'm really sorry to say that it was just a huge disappointment. It truly was. And you know what? There was a lot of heart in this series. And I can't remember. We were talking to Sam Hatmaker either on the podcast or I talked to him personally at the time. But Sam Hatmaker from ToyBiz, he was a designer for ToyBiz. I believe the first wave, the Annihilus wave, was originally a Toy Biz line. Like that was Toy Biz had already sort of mapped out that wave, and then when Hasbro took over the license, they started sort of picked up the ball on that. Fun fact: Hasbro took over the license for Marvel because Marvel was being like sort of spruced up to be sold to Disney. And one of the biggest liabilities, something that made Marvel very unattractive, was having an action figure toy arm. I know that's so weird, right? But Sam Hatmaker was explaining that to us in an episode we did with him a year ago, that in order to make Marvel appealing as a company for Disney to acquire, they wanted to get rid of action figures because action figures toys are seen as a huge risk. We all thought the prototype looked good. We got this figure in hand, and wowza, oh, it was rough. Very flat paint. Her face just looks very just uninspired. I will say they got the hair. They got the Famke Johnson hair perfectly. I mean, that is straight out of the promos of X3, but she just didn't look good. And oh, her hands look very cartoony. It just listen, this is a snowball effect. I don't want to say it was an ugly costume because I think the dress in of itself is kind of nice looking. Like I can understand if someone wasn't familiar with Dark Phoenix, they're like, "Oh, let's modernize it. Let's make it real world in the X-Men, Fox X-Men universe. Let's give her this beautiful red corset and dress." I'm like, I get it. I get it. But for us comic fans, especially where the conversation is now with comic books, this is like such a lackluster interpretation of the Dark Phoenix costume. So lackluster dress translates to a lackluster action figure. Oh, it's so sad, so sad. And by the way, Quicksilver, Zorn, all look terrible. The only one that came out good in this wave was the Build-A-Figure Blob. And I believe until we got the recent Blob, that was one of the most costly Marvel Legends out there. I believe Blob was going for like over $300. This Blob, and by the way, still holds up to till this day. If you don't have the new one, if you still want to display this one, you can still display him. He's still a fun figure to have. I personally like the newer one because obviously technology with action figures has improved quite a bit, but this one I think is absolutely beautiful. But anyways, the overall wave let down. I don't even remember Ultimate Wolverine. I don't think I ever got him. I mean, I must have gotten him. I must have gotten all these figures because I do have Blob, but I remember holding that Famke Jean. Oh, Her Majesty would be so disappointed. I wonder if Her Majesty got a messenger delivery that morning when those figures were starting to hit, and they're like, "Here's your action figure," and you're like, "Ugh." I remember it was Anna Paquin who said this in an interview where she was talking about like the X1 figures, and Anna Paquin was like, "These things are not biodegradable; they will last forever." Oh, she is right. She is right. Coming in at number 9 is the Greatest Moments 2-pack Dark Phoenix and Cyclops. Now, I don't know when this 2-pack ever hit stores. I found it when I was working at Pacific Sunwear, and I went to the comic book store across the street, and I just randomly found it there, and I was like, "Oh, I need to have this," and I picked it up and I took it home with me. And even then, I mean, this must have been around 2001, 2002. Even then, I was sort of holding the figures, and I was like, not the best, to be honest. The visor with Cyclops is bigger than his head, which is always sort of like a red flag for me. And his leather jacket, at the time, I thought it was always cheap to have like clothy, leathery jackets instead of like more hard plastic, like the light up Gambit. I don't, that is just my perspective. I'm obviously excited for the Mafex Rogue to have a actual leather jacket. But then Jean here has a matching leather accents, like her boots have like a leathery cuff over them. And both of these figures are just straight up like repaints. And again, you can just see that someone was thinking like, oh, we have all of these figures just laying in stock somewhere, and we might as well just repurpose them and send them out into the market. Kind of reminds me of like the Simpsons episode where they use the same exact Malibu Stacy doll, except they put a hat on her. This is that exact thing. But I will say that if you did not have the light up Dark Phoenix, this is a nice alternative. I think something that makes the light up Phoenix so incredibly special was the fact that it lit up. So I think like kind of painting out her hair is just not. I don't know. It just makes it feel a little like sad. I will say that I do like the maroon colors on here instead of a brighter red. I like a maroon dark Phoenix coloring. And that's something that I think this figure has very uniquely tailored to itself, especially during that era. I love the whiteout eyes because she's empowered and she's evil. I would have given her a little bit more of a maniacal look in this moment, but that's fine. The Phoenix emblem on it looks really great. They got it right because some people get Dark Phoenix's emblem wrong, which they think it's blacked out with like the neck and like the triangle on the costume. No, 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 no. That's good Phoenix. Dark Phoenix has the emblem just right across her chest. So very good that they knew that. But the overall thing with this figure is not that it's bad. It's just it's an obvious cash grab. I hate the leather cuffs though. I mean, I hate those leather cuffs on her boots so much. And like her tips of her boots are red when they're supposed to be gold. It should have been an extension, but I get it. It would have looked too clunky. But I don't know why they did that. I honestly don't know why they did that. I do have this figure in storage somewhere, I believe at my parents' house, but this is coming in at number 9. Okay, coming in at number 8. And I didn't want to put this figure so low on the list, but we got some really awesome Jean figures out there. I mean, it's just a fact of the matter. We have some really awesome Jean Grey figures out there, but it's going to go to the Juggernaut Wave Phoenix, the one I was talking about. Originally meant to be White Phoenix. Now, she's not a bad figure, but we call her the Celine Dion action figure. We call her Celine Dion Jean Grey. And I love Celine Dion, not meaning this as an insult, but her face just looks so somber yet shocked. It's for a Phoenix figure, you want a little bit more pizzazz here, right? You want fiery tips. I mean, this is Jean at her most powerful. And here, this looks a little pedestrian, in my opinion. Listen, we at this point did not know that we were ever going to get another X-Men dedicated wave because of the Fox Disney sort of film rights dispute. The merger had not yet happened yet. This, I'm telling you, Familia, was our first indication that something was up. That if Hasbro had gotten the green light from Disney to release X-Men comic book dedicated Marvel Legends of the X-Men, that maybe they're going to be striking a deal in the way that they did with Sony and Spider-Man, right? Not only did they strike a deal, they acquired those rights. And we were so happy that they did, because now we have X-Men 97 and everything, hopefully with the X-Men in the MCU on the horizon. But this figure was sort of the herald for that. So it's hard to like look at this figure and not love it for those reasons, because it was part of a very great wave. It was fun to do a Build-A-Figure Juggernaut. And of course, we had Cable, we had Jean, we had Juggernaut, we had Deadpool. That was very reminiscent of the Toy Biz Wave 6 that we got back in the early aughts. So of course, this wave just inspires so much love. But Yeah, the figure is just not very gorgeous, very dynamic. So it's just kind of sad as she didn't really come with any Phoenixy parts. It was just kind of you can tell that the budget did not go to her in this way. That she was definitely, she was cost effective Celine Dion Phoenix. But she is coming in at number 8 for us on this list. I will tell you, the Green Phoenix body you can actually with the Dark Phoenix 2-pack that came out from Hasbro, you can actually grab those heads and put it on this body, and it is a perfect gene. And that's how we pose this figure. We kind of said goodbye to this head, which is a shame because I think the hair looks really, really great. But we kind of said goodbye to this head and we put in those Dark Phoenix alternate heads on here. And by the way, smartly so did that Dark Phoenix 2-pack actually have a kind of like powered down somber Jean head, which is sort of that standard female head that they've used for Warbird and Gamora. And they did one for Jean, and you sort of put it on this Green Phoenix body, or you can do any of the other ones that are a little bit more powered up. But sadly, this head will be lost to history. No one's ever going to remember this head, but the body can be very utilized by us X-Men Marvel Legends collectors. Okay, coming in at number 7 is a Marvel Legends retro card, Dark Phoenix. Now, I remember I was changing for a gig when they were doing PulseCon. I believe it was PulseCon, and they were announcing these figures via the Hasbro stream. And I saw sort of the back of this card, and you could see like on the live stream, they accidentally showed like part of the packaging, and it showed an evil redhead. I was like, "Oh, we're getting Madeline Pryor! We're getting Madeline Pryor! I'm so excited!" Nope, it was not Madeline Pryor. It was Dark Phoenix, and listen, Dark Phoenix, the original Hasbro Dark Phoenix that kind of came out as part of that 2-pack on the secondary market is absurdly overpriced. It's not fair. It's truly not fair at how overpriced that 2-pack was. I understand the need to do a retro card Dark Phoenix. I mean, the David Nakayama art on this, I mean, she looks like she's popping out of the packaging and is just going to devour Earth, right? She looks so good. And I like that she comes with alternate hands. She comes with the small Phoenix effect. For me, this boils down to not liking the colors on this costume. Remember what I was saying before with the Toy Biz Dark Phoenix 2-pack? This one, it's too bright red, in my opinion. And I will say that although I do love shading in the hair, this is like really bold, dynamic, like dark shading in the hair. I'm like, whoa. So in that regard, I don't like this figure as much. In fact, I actually popped the head off of this figure and got the Walmart retro 90s Black Widow alternate head and put it on here, and now I have Rachel Summers. That's sort of what I've done with her. But I think this figure, and I quoted Michelle Waffle Ditto was one of our co-hosts here at Power of X-Men. She said this about the VHS 90s Jim Lee Jean Grey, which is this is an excellent opportunity for collectors to get a figure that they missed out on. And I will say that about this retro card Dark Phoenix. What a wonderful opportunity if you cannot afford that Dark Phoenix on secondary market, if you just didn't were able to find that 2-pack in the wild. This is a wonderful figure to add to your collection. And now you have Dark Phoenix. Again, I think what would I have done with this figure? I would have muted the colors and I would have softened the shading on the hair. And I think you could have had a really, really great figure here. But I know a lot of this wave ended up at Ross, and that was sort of like the running gag. I don't know if I saw people putting Dark Phoenix into their Ross cars, but I will say that the Dark Phoenix and Spiral immediately sold out when you were trying to pre-order them. So again, I don't know if Dark Phoenix and Spiral ended up at Ross. I don't know what the deal is with Ross and getting Marvel Legends, but I will tell you, I don't think I ever saw Dark Phoenix or Spiral in the wild. Obviously, I saw Jamie and I saw Longshot in the wild, but I will say this is a wonderful Dark Phoenix figure to put into your collection if you don't have a Dark Phoenix Marvel Legends. At the very least, that Phoenix effect. I love that Phoenix effect. For me, that's like the Here Comes Tomorrow Phoenix that Gina's holding at the end, and she goes, "Ha, live, Scott, live." That is sort of it for me there. So there we are. Number 7 is the Marvel Legends retro card Dark Phoenix. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay. Number 6 is the Lightup 5-inch Dark Phoenix, the one off that was part of like the Marvel Universe wave and also the box set. I'll be honest with you, I don't see much of a difference here. I think the colors may be slightly different. Slayer Fest Ian had the box set when we went to Lady J's Comic Con a couple weeks ago. And to me, it looked the same, but I didn't have my Dark Phoenix there to hold it up. Listen, the reason why it's number 6 on this list is because I just feel that like they took the green Phoenix and just repainted her red, which I'm sure was always the intention. I mean, why wouldn't you milk it for what it's worth? But the thing is, there's such a difference between Dark Phoenix and Green Phoenix that like I don't know. I wouldn't mind them showcasing how evil Dark Phoenix is, how maniacal and how, global threat Dark Phoenix can be, right? I mean, give her running mascara like the Famke one, but it's not to say that when we weren't kids, that when we saw this light up Dark Phoenix out in the wild, especially as part of a box set with the Starjammers, oh my God, we were all so excited. We were like, yay, oh my God, we loved it. But I will say, it didn't speak to me in the way that the green light up Phoenix did. How about that? So I think this figure, although not bad, although very logical, I think all of us here at Home Familia could be like, well, if I guess I was a Toy Biz, action figure executive, of course it would make sense just to repaint the green figure red and you sell that for just as much as the other one and people will still buy it, right? Or put it in a box set with figures you've already released. Very clever marketing, very, very absolute clever marketing. But I just think what we get here is sort of a lackluster Dark Phoenix. And that's one of the things I'm going to say about the Phoenix, the Dark Phoenix figures that we have, the majority of Dark Phoenix figures that we have, is that they're just a straight up repaint of Good Phoenix. And that's it. And I was like, no, man, like she needs to be her own person. This is Dark Phoenix. I mean, this is Jean literally falling from grace, and the entire universe is wetting itself. This should be reflected in the figure. Dark Phoenix should be so like maniacal, so powerful on your shelf that you're like, oh gosh, she really is going to destroy everything. So that's my overall grievances with Dark Phoenix figures, and that's going to lead into number 5, which is our Marvel Legends Toy Biz Wave 6 Dark Phoenix figure. Same notes. She is just a straight up repaint of the green figure that was the main one, right? So for this 5th entry, the Marvel Legends Toy Biz Dark Phoenix figure from Wave 6, she was actually a chase figure. She was a chase figure, Familia. And man, let me tell you something. Those chase figures back in the day, Red Skull, Translucent Vision, Dark Phoenix. Oh my God. It's like you would go to all of these Walmarts and Toys R Us's, and you would ask them to open up the pallet after pallet and see which one was the chase pallet or chase box, excuse me. They were impossible to find. And in fact, I had to order mine from eBay China when this wave was like first like hitting, and I was able to find her online at $75 and a good Phoenix for I believe it was 75. And which by the way, now we're like, oh, $75 for a rare figure. Great. Let's all buy it. At the time, people were like, you are crazy for paying that much money for a figure that was like $5.99, $6.99. Everyone's like, you're paying $75 plus shipping, might I add, plus shipping. And it took forever. I want to say it was like 3 weeks before the figure. Well, I guess that doesn't sound too bad if it's coming from China, but it still took a long time. And I was like, ah. But anyways, I will give them props that they did white out her eyes for this. But again, it's just a straight up repaint of of the regular Phoenix figure. And again, to my point, Dark Phoenix should be her own character. Dark Phoenix is worthy of being her own release. It's just I do like the gold. The gold on this was a darker gold, and I loved the maroon color that they use. It's not really maroon, it's like a red, almost garnety color. They got the Phoenix emblem right. And again, the whited out eyes, this was a big effort, right? And that's the other thing for the light up Dark Phoenix. I will say, at least they changed, the gold on it. They made it more of a darker color that, like, sort of, is very dynamic and, shimmers when you move it around. I like the garnet on this figure, and they whited out her eyes. That is a big thing that they did, and I do appreciate that. But yes, let me tell you, the thing about this figure of why it's going to go down in the history books is because it was the chase figure, because it was impossible to find. I'm telling you, Familia, I don't think I ever saw her out in the wild. Maybe when they released the chase wave, like they did like a Walmart chase wave that like they put out, and a couple people found it. I want to say maybe I found it. I may be confusing the story with Flinkman's story. I think Flink definitely found her, but yeah, it just makes me, again, like, I just would have really have liked to have had a Dark Phoenix figure that was truly her own. But again, I can't fault a Toy Biz executive for doing that. I personally, I think the figure in general, I love it. We'll get into it later on in this list because I think this figure is really fun. I love it. What a great time to be collecting Marvel Legends. We were just getting the engine started up. You have to understand, again, at this point, we had only gone in 5 waves of Marvel Legends. We didn't know what to expect. And then we got this wave that had Cable, that had Jean, that had Deadpool, that had Juggernaut, not a Build-A-Figure, no Build-A-Figure, right? And you got Jean as Phoenix with a Phoenix effect. And this was before Storm, before Psylocke, before all of these heavy hitter like X-Men that, not that Jean or Dark Phoenix or Phoenix are not like heavy hitters, but you would assume that a Storm figure would come before a Jean figure. And oh my goodness, this is a wave. Wave 6 is when we knew we had something special. And this Dark Phoenix figure will be remembered for that because it was the chase figure for that wave. All right, Familia, we are hitting our top 4 Phoenix figures. Oh, I I did sit down and marinate on where I wanted to put these figures. Again, this boiled down to the utility of the figure. How great does it look? The context in which it came out. Do we still have them in our collection? Memories, nostalgia, everything. I'm pretty happy with how I've ordered these, and I'm so excited to get through them. But I want to know, how would you have ranked these Phoenix figures? Slide into our DMs. Let me know in the comments below. But okay, number 4 is a Marvel Select Here Comes Tomorrow Phoenix. I went there. And we got 2 of these, right? We had more of the human version and we had the fired up version. Now, listen, why is this figure number 4 on this list? Well, I'm going to tell you, one, it looks beautiful. I mean, the translucent fired up one, oh my, it is just inherently a beautiful figure. I mean, the plastic they used for her costume, it almost feels latex-y. But then we also got like a human form of it and the shading and the dynamic of it. Oh, it looks so good. But it does get number 4 mantle because all of us took the Phoenix effect from the Marvel selection. And technically, the Phoenix effect is Phoenix, and Jean is a Phoenix. So right there, it is a wonderful Marvel Select figure of Jean as Phoenix, but it is the Phoenix base, the Phoenix effect base that we collectors love till this day, still being posed in all of our collections. Now, the inspiration for this costume was a Days of Future Past meets Dark Phoenix, and it appeared in Grant Morrison's swan song to their new X-Men era. called Here Comes Tomorrow. I love Here Comes Tomorrow. That's where we get White Phoenix, hence why I love, absolutely love the Marvel Legends unreleased Rocket Raccoon White Phoenix figure that I paid, again, way too much for. But Mark Silvestri drew the design for this. It was such a vibe. And what happens is Jean wakes up 150 years in the future, and Beast, possessed by Sublime, convinces her to carry out an extinction level event on Earth. But Jean comes to her senses, ascends into the white hot room, and amputates that future and says, "Live, Scott, live," and pushes Scott to be with Emma to avoid this dystopian timeline. Oh, what a wonderful story. And this was a time when, again, we didn't know what we were really going to be getting with Marvel Legends. But not only did we get a Marvel Select Here Comes Tomorrow Phoenix, but we also got a Marvel Select Astonishing Emma Frost. And so we would display that Emma in the collection as well with this Phoenix base. So Marvel Select for the win, coming in at number 4 here. Okay. Number 3 is a Marvel Legends Toy Biz Wave 6 Green Phoenix. For everything I just mentioned about the Dark Phoenix variant, this is when we knew that Toy Biz wasn't effing around when it came to Marvel Legends, that they were actually going to give us good characters, that they're going to want us to build out a collection. And wow, so let me tell you about this wave. We had heard rumors. I was living at the New Yorker Hotel at the time, and I was spending the summer as sort of a transient student at NYU. And on the Foosh, there were rumors that they were going to be getting the wave in at the True in Times Square. So we went there, I want to say at like 7:30, 8 a.m. And there was everyone from the Foosh out there, and we were all waiting for Toys R Us to open. Toys R Us in Times Square. Never mind, no tourists. There were no tourists waiting outside. It was all collectors. And they opened up the doors, and the music playing in the store was "Go Speed Racer, Go." And all of us just running up to the second floor, going up those escalators, running. Oh gosh, I miss Toys R Us in Times Square so much, but running up there and going to the pegs, and literally just all of us going crazy. Again, to quote that Simpsons episode with Malibu Stacy, like all of us just going through the pegs. I found the only Green Phoenix. I don't know how many. In my memory, there was like 20 people. It must have been something smaller than 20. But again, Jean was, I'm forgetting, she was supposed to be the first character that wasn't going to be a chase figure. She was one per case, if I remember it correctly. So there must have been someone else who found another Phoenix figure, but we all got there. And I want to say maybe 2 or 3, of the cases were out there. And so Jean was supposed to be the end of chase figures, right? The Dark Phoenix would be the chase because it was a variant, but Jean would be at least one per case. That was one of the things that I believe Jesse Falcon had said on the Foosh, that Jean would be one per case. So at the time we had different like packing out ratios. So like a character like Deadpool may have 2, right? 2 per case. A character like Wolverine would have 3, but then a character like Jean would be 1 per case, right? So this Green Phoenix was going to be, regardless, always 1 per case. And I went up there, man, it was like, again, to quote the Simpsons episode, everyone was just going through the pegs, and I just went into one peg, and I went through all of them. I saw Deadpool with the goop. I grabbed him, and then at the end of that peg was Jean as Phoenix, and I got her, and I was so excited. I obviously, me and someone else, I remember, found Jean. Obviously, someone else must have found Jean as well. But one of the things that also kind of made us like scared was that some employees would take the rare ones. So when they were putting it out and they would notice that there was 1 per case, they would take that figure out. So we were always afraid. So even though they may have put out like 5 cases of the figure, that one would be missing. One of the more rare figures would be missing. So I remember myself and someone else got that figure. I don't know if anyone else did, but certainly people like kind of came around me and like, "Oh, you found the Phoenix." And I was like, "I did." Jean Grey fan for the win. But This figure, I remember when she was announced. Oh, we all loved it. We were all so excited for it. I think this is a near perfect figure. Listen, obviously, the technology has improved with figures. I don't want to be like, this is so great, so flawless. I get it. It's a very clunky body, but I think the head sculpt looks so good. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, they can't get better. It can't get any better than this. I mean, spoilers, it does. I will maintain this is better than the Celine Dion head. I will maintain it looks better than the Celine Dion head. I'm sorry, I said it. I love this figure so much. And you know what? They also got, they got the black part with her neck and the costume with the Phoenix emblem there. So happy with it. Obviously, we got a Phoenix effect as well with this. This was kind of seen as the inferior one as to the Marvel Select Phoenix base, obviously, but we were still happy to have this. I mean, can you imagine this wave came with so many accessories? Imagine getting that now. I mean, the figures would be in the 70s, right? $70 at starting. But I love this figure so much. She has like red fiery emblems in her hair. We know this from Sam Hatmaker because he told me this personally like 12 years ago, but also on our episode is that they did base these character models off of actual actors. So this to me looks like Nicole Kidman. I mean, there's no mistaking there's a Nicole Kidman similarity here. So she was based off of Nicole Kidman, maybe another actress, of course, but I love it. I think she looks so great. It's one of those figures that I just love having as part of my collection. I have her wrapped up in tissue paper, safely stored away here at our Miami place because I never want anything to happen to her. This is a figure I love so much. Again, this is just an era. And fun fact, there was in Toy Fair when they were showing the promotional images, you know how they used to do like funny like comic book dialogue for this? The one with this with Jean, her promo image, they had you wash my car because she was pointing in the image. Oh, so much fun. Such a great era. Such a great era of collecting. I mean, again, Toys R Us in Times Square, it was like the center of the universe. Oh gosh, for collecting, such a wonderful time to be a collector. All right, familia, we have two more figures left, and I'm so excited to get into them. Oh, let's get comfortable, because I have a lot to say on these figures, and you know I'm going to be ranting. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready for number two? Number two is the Marvel Legends two-pack Dark Phoenix and Cyclops Toys R Us exclusive. By the way, so we had Ryan Ting on the podcast a couple years ago, and he confirmed that this was his idea, that he wanted to do this two pack. So shout out to you, Ryan Ting, for giving us the best Dark Phoenix figure ever in existence. And for those reasons, why it's number two, it is the best Dark Phoenix figure ever in existence. Because you know why, Familia? Because this was made knowing it was Dark Phoenix. Yes, they're using the Green Phoenix body that they had already put out with their own Juggernaut wave, but they were like, the head sculpts are all going to be Dark Phoenix. And you got a fired up, translucent head. Oh my God. I mean, that translucent head with the yellow fiery eyes, and like it almost looks like her eyebrows are also on fire. Oh, that is Dark Phoenix. That screams Dark Phoenix coming for you. Run out of the way. She's coming for you. This is the only Dark Phoenix figure that I truly believe that in production they were like, we are doing Dark Phoenix. Oh, obviously, we got two more alternate heads that are a little bit more somber, but let me tell you, I think Hasbro, and this is a special message I want to give out to the Hasbro team. They listen to fans, right? Remember when we got Cannonball with the blast effect and they called him like legless, like Cannonball? I will tell you that they then put out another Cannonball figure because they had heard the outcry. Right. And I really, really appreciate that. We got that two pack with Domino. That was very kind of them to do. And similarly here, they heard us about that Celine Dion head that people were not happy with, and they gave us two heads. They were like, you want another Jean head? Fine, here you go, have it. And they all work for Dark Phoenix as well. The second head is obviously a powered down version of the translucent head, and it still looks like Dark Phoenix, looks great. But the other is that generic sort of female head that we talked about that came with Warbird and Gamora, and among other figures. But it looks so good for Jean. In fact, with our White Phoenix body, we put that generic head on the White Phoenix body, and it's Here Comes Tomorrow Phoenix as far as we're concerned. But you can also put these on the Green Phoenix body from the Juggernaut wave, and it looks great. I mean, especially the powered down one. But this was a Toys R Us exclusive, Familia. We were lucky. We found this quite a few times. In fact, at the Toys R Us in Miami, I was vacationing down in Miami, and I went into Toys R Us and I found a two-pack version of this, but Jean did not have her Phoenix emblem on it. And again, the conversations were just different. But instead of getting it because it was like a defect, ooh, this could be worth some money in the future, I was like, man, someone else can have it. So I discarded it. But we have about two or three of these. We definitely have the ones we display, and I think we have two in the boxes in storage. But I got to tell you, Familia, this was such a fun box set to go out and chase. It was great. Cyclops is nice too. It's Dark Phoenix with a Cyclops accessory. But it is just, I mean, they did our God Queen justice here. I mean, and when you even zoom in on the Dark Phoenix translucent head, you notice that she not only has like fiery yellow eyes, but there are two shades of the fire in there. I mean, that was the attention to detail. This was, I say this a lot in every video. I'm like, this was a kickoff to the golden age of Marvel Legends we have. But I will say, I think this was a kickoff of sorts because everyone unanimously loved this two pack. And it is still one of those two packs that on the secondary market, as mentioned, it is a lot of money, and rightfully so. This is also where we got that translucent mini Phoenix effect, which, I would have preferred them to have tried instead of Cyclops, giving us like a larger Phoenix base, but I get it. I mean, sort of the selling point of Dark Phoenix is also the Jean Scott romance. It's Jean falling from grace, and what's at stake is not only her sanity, but also her love with Cyclops. It's a beautiful story. Dark Phoenix remains one of the best stories out there, so I get why you had to put Cyclops there. But man, you could have just given me this figure with the Phoenix effects and the alternate heads, and I would have been happy. Done. Don't need anything else. But again, I just want to stress the point that they did Dark Phoenix right by this figure. This is the Dark Phoenix figure that we deserved. And I'm so happy she's not just a repaint of the Green Phoenix figure. This was a figure that was created with Dark Phoenix being the focal point. Oh, so good. So good. And again, I love the maroon. I love the shading. She has black shading on her maroon costume. The paint apps are just perfect. I'm always going to be a sucker. I'm always going to be a sucker for translucent heads. But the fact that we got three heads for Jean, I mean, again, that was just a gift that Hasbro gave us for that outcry on the Celine Dion head. And I'll never forget when she was announced. I believe she was announced at San Diego Comic-Con. And I believe we were in the room for this one. We were at the presentation and we saw it, and we saw the prototype, and we were just like, it was kind of like a version of what we saw on the packaging here. And we're like, when are we going to get this? And the mindset at the time was that we were a little afraid that we wouldn't get her because, again, so many of the variants had not like made it out. And that was something that like we were genuinely scared because, again, at the time, Dark Phoenix was just a byproduct of a Green Phoenix, just like a chase figure. But that is number two. And that leaves number one for the original OG ToyBiz 5-inch Phoenix figure. Oh my God. Even seeing this figure till this day puts the biggest smile on my face. One thing I'm going to say is that this figure came out with two versions of it. This version that you're seeing here on screen with the Phoenix art right there, and it says X-Men Phoenix Saga, is the very specific packaging for this. I did not get this packaging until later in life because there would be another packaging, which is what I got, which is the one with like the generic Wolverine packaging. Oh, it made me so sad. It just made me so sad that I didn't even know that the Phoenix packaging had existed. But and they both have different screws on them. One of them has a very silver screw, and another one has like a white, like translucent screw on it, like a little bit more plasticky. So very different. I know that's such a minute detail, but I'm telling you, when you're a crazy jean stand and you're hyper examining all these figures and the differences, oh, and I do believe the Wolverine packaging one, has a slightly darker colors. Yep. They do. I mean, at least per these pictures, they look like they have slightly darker colors. I never really noticed it in real life, so it could just be lighting in these photos. But I do think because my husband has and that's how we have the green Phoenix packaging, it does look slightly less different. Anyways, let me tell you about this figure. I was at Kmart in what, like 1995, 1994, something like that. Just really fresh face X-Men fan. Fresh face. I had no idea what was going on. Had no idea what was going on with the X-Men, but I knew that they did a Phoenix figure and I knew I wanted it. And I hunted for this figure. I was at Kmart. I flipped over, I believe it was Corsair, and I saw that they had Phoenix. I was like, oh my God. Now, interesting enough, the prototype they show on the packaging, she has colored in red hair and it's one swept. So for the most part, what the figure we got, except she was translucent and lights up. So again, I was not online. I don't even think online existed. It would be at least 2 years until we got AOL keyword Marvel. But I saw it, I went crazy. There was a Sears in our neighborhood. I went there as well. We made a manager come in from the back, and we gave him, I believe, a chode was in that wave. We gave him chode, and we're like, we're looking for the girl, we're looking for the redhead here, me and my dad. And he was here like, well, we get new shipments in every Tuesday, and then we put them out on Wednesday. So your best bet's to come in on Wednesday. I was disappointed, could not find that figure to save my life. I mean, I don't know how long I hunted for this figure, but a few weeks later, I went to my dad's office and he had something called a phone book. I flipped open the phone book. I went to T. I was like, do you have the ToyBiz X-Men Phoenix? Nope. And they would be like, sorry, ma'am, because my voice was so squeaky. I don't know why they would say sorry, ma'am, because I probably honestly sounded like a kid. I wouldn't be like, why would they call me ma'am, not kid? But anyways, but I would go through the T's and all Toys R Us, like, oh no, Kmart's, K's, call, everything. And you would be placed on hold. Sometimes you would be on hold for 10, 15 minutes. I mean, we're talking this was a journey. Finally got to the K's, went through all the KBs, and there was this one KB that was like, yep, we have her. And I was like, what? You have her? Oh my God. And I made my parents drop what they were doing at the office and drive to this KB toy store in Town and Country, which they had an office by the airport. Town and Country was in the neighborhood called Kendall. It was middle of the day, right? School traffic, whatever. I don't know. But let me tell you something. It took them an hour and a half almost just to get to that KB toy store. And I got there, and there she was behind the counter in the blue Wolverine packaging. But they had all the wave out there on the pegs and multiple Phoenixes, from what I remember, multiple Phoenixes. I did not know that she lit up. I did not know that she was translucent. My mouth, I mean, again, you have to understand, I was like 9 or 10. I'm holding the figure and I'm like, oh, like that. I was just like, oh, I literally was like trembling. And my parents, to their credit, I think saw how worked up I got, in a good way, and they were just like, why don't you buy two of her? Which is, again, these figures were like $4.99, $5.99. So it's not like they were breaking the bank. They were just trying to teach me not to be spoiled, right? That was a big thing for kids in the 90s. If you got too many action figures, you were considered spoiled. I was like, you don't understand. This is like a lifelong. This is going to be a lifelong obsession. But they let me have two of her, and they again, to my parents' credit, they saw how excited I was. They were like, "Why don't you go get some more stuff?" So. And literally, I think I was sobbing. I was so excited that I had found this figure. So embarrassing to say online, but I quite literally was sobbing, holding these figures like this, just crying out of sheer happiness, but not even just like a cute cry. It was like, like, like just crying because I was so happy. And I remember walking down, like to calm down, walking down the action figure aisle because okay, so here's the aisle right here. They had like sort of a display at the front of the aisle, and that's where they had this wave. That's where they had the Phoenix, they had Corsair, they had Space Wolverine, they had Chode, they had them all there. Then you can walk down the aisle, and that was like the proper action figure aisle. And then I saw that they had the Wildcats figures there, and Void was there, and she was metallically and metallic and silver, and I just cried even more. And my parents bought that for me at the same time, so I got Phoenix with the Wildcat Void. What a time to be alive! But this figure, I think I can speak for all of us, deserves to be number one because it was a pioneer for Phoenix figure. Again, this was a figure that was made specifically to be Phoenix with the light up Phoenix effect, with her sash, with her hand just sticking out like that. I mean, it was gorgeous. Now, listen, the Wolverine packaging one. The Wolverine packaging one did come with what was Cannonball's like action feature, which is like a catapult, except this was translucent fiery. Listen, sure, I'm sure again, once more, I'm sure that someone at ToyBiz was like, we have all of these little cannonball like things laying around. Make it translucent, give it to Phoenix. I mean, I guess they would have to redo the mold, right? This isn't just I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they paint it. I don't know how they make these things, but they reuse cannonball like action. I keep doing this cannonball because you would put her there and you'd do that. Did not use it, discarded it, did not care for it at all. Literally don't even know where it is. I have like this figure. I don't have any for as many of these figures that I have, I don't have that cannonball effect. But my goodness, familia, this Jean figure, this Phoenix figure. And again, at the time, there were so many questions surrounding who is Jean, who is the Phoenix, how are they sort of connected? Again, not that Marvel did not properly delineate it in the comics at the time, but it's just because information was so scarce. You didn't have Wikipedia. And again, all you had were small little trading cards or a random issue of X-Men, but you didn't have the entire crossover or the entire series to understand the context of things and how things sort of like played out. So there was a lot of questions regarding Gina and the Phoenix. The X-Men animated series streamlined that for us. This was the figure that everyone wanted. I mean, her sash being molded there, the Phoenixy effect. I mean, fiery Phoenix power. Oh, I want that on my tombstone. That should have been on Jean's tombstone in Here Comes Tomorrow instead of She Will Rise Again. Fiery Phoenix power. Anyways, Familia, that is number one. Deservingly so does it get number one because this is the best Phoenix figure that was ever created. Not only was it just fun, but also the context in which it came out. It inspired an entire generation of collectors. We love it so much. All right, Familia. That is our rankings of the Phoenix figures. You let us know your feels. What are your rankings for these Phoenix figures? Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you so much for listening to me rant. And you can check out more episodes of the podcast here on YouTube. But we do also have podcast episodes available on podcast platforms. That's the majority of the releases there.